Do you remember how scary stories used to be told? They were whispered things, passed along in the dead of night at a sleepover, shared around a flickering campfire, or maybe read from a dog-eared book of ghost stories. The monster was always at a distance, a local spook tied to a specific haunted house or a lonely stretch of road. The tale traveled slowly, person to person, a game of cultural telephone played across generations. But the campfire has changed. It's no longer a small circle of friends in the woods. Now the campfire is global, it's infinite, and it glows with the light of a billion screens. In this new wilderness, new monsters are born. Have you heard of the one in the suit? The unnaturally tall, faceless man who lurks in the background of photographs? A silent predator stalking children in the digital woods? He has no ancient history, no centuries-old folklore. He was born in 2009 on an obscure internet forum. And yet, for millions, he feels just as real, if not more so, than any ghost from an old storybook. Welcome to a new episode from English Plus Podcast, my friends, and this is the third episode of our Into the World Urban Legends theme for this week. And today we're going to explore digital nightmares, the rise of the online legend. We're logging on and plugging into the new folklore, the myths and monsters made of pixels and code. We're pulling apart the motherboard of modern myth-making to ask some burning questions. How did the internet evolve from a simple information superhighway into the world's most effective and terrifying storytelling engine? What are the unique properties of digital communication that make it such fertile ground for new legends? What exactly is creepypasta? How has this new genre of user-generated horror created open-source monsters where the line between the author and the audience completely dissolves? How do these digital legends, from sinister viral challenges to cursed video files, leap from our screens into the real world, influencing behavior and, in some tragic cases, inspiring real-world violence? And finally, is this new breed of folklore fundamentally different, perhaps more potent and dangerous than the classic tales of the past? When a monster's origin can be traced to a specific forum post, does it lose its power, or does its ability to spread and mutate at light speed make it even more formidable? Well, my friends, this episode is a deep dive into the birth of a new mythology, one that is being written and rewritten every second of every day by an anonymous global collective. But be aware, this landscape is vast and shifts beneath your feet. A single episode can only be a snapshot of a phenomenon in constant, chaotic motion. True comprehension requires more than just listening. It demands a critical eye, a healthy dose of skepticism, and a willingness to engage with this new digital world on your own terms. I can show you the door to the forum, but you have to be the one to read the threads. So, dim the lights, check your Wi-Fi connection, and scroll down with us as we explore our digital nightmares. I'm Danny, and this is a new episode from English Plus Podcast, and this is our third episode from our theme of this week, Urban Legends. Hello and welcome back to Into the World of Urban Legends. I'm your host, Danny. In our first episode of our theme, we looked at the psychology of why we believe. In our second, we traveled the world to see how legends adapt and change. Today, we're exploring the where. And the where has undergone the most radical transformation in the history of human communication. We're talking, of course, about the internet. For centuries, folklore had a very specific transmission model. It was organic, person to person. A story was a living thing, but it could only travel as fast as a human being could speak or travel. A legend might be born in one town and take 50 years to cross a mountain range, changing its details with every retelling. This was the friend of a friend model, slow, localized, and prone to the fallibility of human memory. Then came the internet, and everything changed. The internet isn't just a new medium for old stories. It's a new environment, an ecosystem that has given rise to an entirely new species of legend. It represents a fundamental paradigm shift in how folklore is created, shared, and experienced. The old limitations were obliterated. The speed of transmission went from years to seconds. The scale went from a village to the entire globe. The friend of a friend became a screen name of a screen name. An anonymous source who could be anyone, anywhere. But the most significant change was the nature of evidence. In the old days, a legend's only proof was the conviction of the person telling it. Online, you could create proof. You could Photoshop a picture, edit a video, create a fake news article, or write a chillingly realistic-sounding personal account. The internet gave storytellers a powerful toolkit for creating verisimilitude, the appearance of being true or real. This new ecosystem needed a name for its unique brand of horror, and it got one: Creepypasta. The name is a portmanteau of creepy and copypasta, a term for a block of text that gets copied and pasted over and over again across the internet. Creepypastas are essentially internet ghost stories, short, user-generated pieces of horror fiction designed to be shared. They range from tales of haunted video games and lost TV episodes to stories formatted as chat logs or forum posts. They are the native folklore of the digital age. And in the summer of 2009, in a creative corner of the internet, Creepypasta would give birth to the first great monster of the digital age. Our story begins on the Something Awful forums, a website known for its dark humor and creative communities. On June the 8th, a user started a thread for a Photoshop contest: create paranormal images. The rules were simple. Take a mundane photograph and add something subtly creepy. 2 days later, a user named Eric Knudsen, going by the screen name of Victor Surge, posted 2 black and white photos. Both depicted groups of children, and in the background of both, lurking near a playground or in the woods, was a tall, unnaturally thin figure in a black suit with a blank, featureless face. Knudsen added snippets of cryptic text to his images. One read, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them." But its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time. 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead. Something about this creature, which another user dubbed Slender Man, was electric. It tapped into a primal fear of the unknown pursuer, the uncanny valley of a human-shaped thing that is not human. But what happened next is what makes this a landmark moment in the history of folklore. In the old world, Knudsen would have been the sole author. But on the internet, he was just the man who planted a seed. Other users immediately seized upon his creation. They didn't just share the photos, they added to the story. They photoshopped their own Slender Man images. They wrote their own eyewitness accounts, their own fictional police reports, their own historical documents. Within days, a complex mythos began to grow around this creature, collaboratively and organically. Slender Man wasn't owned by anyone. He was an open-source monster. The community decided on his characteristics. He stalks children. He can cause memory loss and paranoia. Slender sickness. He has tentacle-like appendages. This collaborative world building culminated in projects like the hugely influential YouTube series Marble Hornets, a found footage style show that presented the Slender Man mythos as a terrifying reality. This is fundamentally different from The Vanishing Hitchhiker. We can trace the genesis of Slender Man to a specific forum post on a specific day. But His authorship is collective. He was born in the hive mind of the internet. This participatory nature is the defining feature of digital folklore. You don't just consume the story, you can become a part of its creation. For years, Slender Man was a wildly popular but safely contained internet phenomenon. He was a boogeyman for the digital campfire. But in 2014, the line between fiction and reality blurred with tragic consequences. On May 31st, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, two 12-year-old girls lured their friend into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, leaving her dead. Miraculously, the victim survived. When the police asked the perpetrators why they did it, their answer was chilling. They did it to become proxies of the Slender Man, to prove he was real and to protect their families from him. The case was a cultural earthquake. It forced a global conversation about the internet, children, and the power of online myths. A creature invented for a Photoshop contest had become so real in the minds of two young girls that it inspired an act of brutal violence. This was the dark side of participatory folklore. The very thing that made Slender Man so compelling, his collaborative, immersive, reality-blurring nature, also made him uniquely potent. The story had breached its containment. Now, while Slender Man is a character-based legend, the internet has also perfected a new kind of behavior-based legend, the viral challenge. These are legends that don't just ask you to believe a story, they ask you to do something. Now, you've probably heard of some of them. The Cinnamon Challenge, the Tide Pod Challenge. Many are harmless, if ill-advised, but some take on a much more sinister, supernatural tone, operating like a digital chain letter with a curse attached. Perhaps the most famous example is the Momo Challenge. In 2018, stories began to spread like wildfire across social media and news outlets. A grotesque avatar, a bug-eyed, bird-like woman with a horrifying grin, was supposedly hacking into platforms like WhatsApp and YouTube Kids. This creature, Momo, would then command children to perform a series of increasingly dangerous tasks, culminating in self-harm or even suicide. It caused a global moral panic. Schools issued warnings to parents. Police departments posted alerts. The media ran sensationalist stories. But when journalists and investigators tried to find a single confirmed case of a child being harmed as a direct result of the Momo Challenge, they couldn't. The truth was far more complex. The Momo image was actually a photograph of a sculpture created by a Japanese special effects company. There was no widespread hack, no sinister entity controlling children. The Momo Challenge was not a real challenge, but an urban legend about a challenge. It was a ghost story that perfectly mirrored parental anxieties in the digital age. Fear of the unknown online world their children inhabit. Fear of hidden dangers in technology, and fear of losing control. The story spread not because children were doing it, but because panicked adults were sharing the warnings. Every concerned Facebook post, every local news segment gave the legend more power, more verisimilitude. The story of Momo demonstrates the internet's ability to create a feedback loop, where the fear of a thing becomes more real and widespread than the thing itself. So what can we learn by comparing these digital nightmares to their analog ancestors? First, the origins of digital legends are often traceable and documented. This is a radical departure from traditional folklore. This should, in theory, make them easier to debunk. But paradoxically, it doesn't always rob them of their power. The collaborative nature of something like Slender Man makes the true origin feel less important than the vast, user-created world that surrounds it. Second, digital folklore is a multimedia experience. The Vanishing Hitchhiker was just a spoken story. Slender Man is photos, videos, audio logs, and video games. This multi-platform, immersive quality makes the experience of the legend more intense and blurs the line between a story and a game or an alternate reality. Third, and most importantly, is the participatory nature. The internet turns consumers of folklore into potential creators. This fosters a deep sense of community and personal investment in the stories. But it also creates a chaotic environment where misinformation and dangerous ideas can be amplified with frightening speed. The wall between the storyteller and the audience has crumbled, and the wall between the story and the real world has become dangerously thin. The internet did not invent scary stories, obviously not. It did not invent the human need to share them. But it has created an engine of myth-making unlike any in history. It's a place where monsters can be willed into existence by collective imagination and where fear itself can become the most viral contagion of all. These are not just stories anymore. They are living, evolving digital organisms, and we are all part of their ecosystem. So my friends, that's about today's episode. But of course, the episode is not over yet. We still have the focus on language. But let me tell you what we're going to talk about next time on Into the World of Urban Legends, which is tomorrow. We'll explore the legends that reflect our anxieties about science and medicine, which is very important, by the way. From stories of stolen organs to fears about vaccines, we'll look at how medical folklore taps into our deepest fears about our own bodies and the powerful, mysterious institutions we entrust them to. So, thank you very much for listening to this part of the episode. And next, we're going to turn our attention from the plus part of the episode, where we take our knowledge to the next level, to the English part of the episode, where we take our English to the next level. That's coming next. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Well, my friends, this is the end of the free version of the episode. If you want to listen to the entire episode and unlock access to all our back catalog and a lot of other rich and useful content, including our series, you can do that by subscribing to Apple Podcasts or Patreon. You can find the links in the description of the episode. But with that being said, thank you very much for listening to the topic today, and I hope you subscribe and join me in the Focus on Language section later. I'll see you next time.